Do you know someone who would really benefit from working on their emotional intelligence, but they dismiss the need to do so because they just see it as some touchy-feely, airy-fairy kind of stuff that doesn't have an impact on how effective they can be in the workplace? If you know someone like that and you need to convince them to work on it, watch this video because I've got some quick tips for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Patricia Thompson. I'm a corporate psychologist and executive coach. You can find me at Silver Lining Psychology, and if you would like to see more videos that I create in terms of ways to help you to be more successful at work, then please do like and subscribe and leave a comment down below if anything that I say in this video resonates with you. Okay, so like I said, I'm an executive coach, and it's not uncommon for me to be in situations where people are brought to me for coaching and it's suggested that they need to work on their interpersonal skills or their emotional intelligence. Often they might have major blind spots about how they're impacting other people, or sometimes they might think that emotional intelligence is a soft skill, which makes it sound like something that's not really that important. And instead, they're focused on things like results and metrics and goals and feel like anybody who is worried about this emotional stuff is missing the point of the workplace. So I've definitely worked with this sort of person a lot. And what I found is that there are usually a number of reasons that people can tend to devalue emotional intelligence as something to work on. And so let's get right into the tips that will help you to have some ammunition to perhaps encourage them to recognize the value of working on emotional intelligence. Okay, so my first tip is to present people with research. And a lot of times people who can devalue emotional intelligence are people who are very analytical. So they're into numbers and data and hard facts, things that they can empirically touch and see. And to them, something like emotional intelligence can seem very abstract and something that just doesn't seem as important to them in terms of getting the work done. And so typically what I'll do with that sort of client is really speak to them what's going to motivate them and what's going to convince them, which is data. And so I will encourage them to get into the data and do some research on emotional intelligence. And I will also share research with them. Things like, leaders who have more emotional intelligence tend to not only be rated as more effective by the people who report to them, but they actually tend to get better outcomes in the workplace. They are leaders of more productive teams. The people who report to them are more motivated to succeed. Also, as you move up within an organization, emotional intelligence becomes much more important. When you're an individual contributor, if your interpersonal skills aren't the greatest, it might not make as much of an impact because it's just you doing your work. But the larger your reach against people, the more effective you have to be in dealing with them. And so often, if people don't work on their emotional intelligence, it is something that can severely limit them in their careers. And so that's something that can be pretty motivating as well. I remember actually talking to a client years and years ago who was undervaluing the importance of emotional intelligence and dealing with people. And he told me years later, I don't even remember saying this, but that if you're going to be getting results through people, then you have to learn to work with people. You have to learn how to inspire them. And until you're getting your results through robots, you have to learn how to deal with the emotional nature of people and how to inspire them. And that was something actually that he shared that I told him years later that really resonated and stuck with him. And I think it's important. Sometimes people might not want to deal with the emotional elements of the job, but if you're going to be effective, you have to learn how to do it. So present research, kind of point out that they're working with people, and so they have to understand how people tick and how to work with them effectively. And I found that can often at least get people to have their ears perk up a little bit to be willing to work on their emotional intelligence. The second approach that I found to be really helpful at times is to conduct a 360 survey. Now, if you're not aware of what a 360 survey is, basically it is an anonymous survey where you have someone and they're in the middle of the circle and you get anonymous feedback from their peers, their direct reports, and then also from their boss. And their boss usually isn't anonymous because your boss is supposed to be giving you feedback, but it's a 360 degrees of a circle. And a 360 survey can be really helpful because often people who need to work on their emotional intelligence can have big blind spots. They just might not have a deep level of awareness of the impact that they're having on others. And so often when we get the results of the 360 survey back and they're able to read some of the comments that people are writing about the impact that they're having on them, or they're able to see numerically how effective or ineffective they are in certain areas, that can often be the aha moment that lets them realize that, okay, maybe my results orientation is good, but it definitely has a downside, and so I really need to work on my emotional intelligence. And I'm not saying that you present the research and automatically they have that big, aha moment. Sometimes they get the results and they're a little bit surprised or mad, and they have to go off and process and think about it. But 9 times out of 10, what I find is once they've had a chance to get over the initial shock and not rationalize it away anymore, they can realize, okay, I can't deny that everyone is telling me that this is something that I need to work on. So let's come up with a plan of attack to do that. The third recommendation I have is to help to address people's fears. One common fear that I see is people are worried that if they, not only focus on the results, but actually think about people, that they won't be able to get the good results that they're used to. It's almost as if they have the belief that, people have to have the stick as opposed to the carrot. And if you're too nice to people, or if you're focusing on, inspiration and all those other things, then you're not going to get the results. And that's where, first of all, talking about the research is important, because actually you get the opposite effect where people are more loyal to the organization. They're more inspired by you as a leader. They're not just working through gritted teeth because you're telling them to, but they actually find more meaning in their work and feel more valued. So that's important. I think it also can be helpful just to have them to reflect on the bosses that might have been most influential for them. And a lot of time for people, they'll talk about bosses who took an interest in them as an individual, or people who really, cared about them, went the extra mile, listened to them, wasn't just concerned about the results that they got on a piece of paper. And so just having a bigger picture perspective of it and addressing the fear about that can be really helpful also. And so that would be something else that I would suggest. So those are 3 quick tips that you can get you started. And then, the process of actually working on building emotional intelligence is something that really is a process over time. And a lot of it is related to helping people to become more self-aware, learning their impact on other people, giving them actionable strategies that they can use to learn more about others, and then also to moderate how they're interacting with others. And I actually have a course called the 21-Day Crash Course in Emotional Intelligence. At this point, it's been taken by over 22,000 students, and I've gotten really great feedback about how it has helped people to become more self-aware and to become more effective in their interactions with others. So you can check that out in the links below about that and other courses that I have. And I hope this video gave you some tips that you'll be able to use the next time you come across someone who needs to work on their emotional intelligence. So I'll see you in the next video. Bye.